Hello and a very good morning to all of you once again. If you just tuned in, my name is Vasam Ismail and you are watching Good Morning Sri Lanka on MTV Sports. And of course, before the break, we were talking about the 85th Annual Academy Awards, and we will continue to do so later on in the show. But before that, like I said, we do have a few interesting guests in the studio this morning who I'm just about to talk to. Now, if there are parents out there who send your kids to international schools, you may have encountered some of these people. If your kids have been good or even maybe up to no good, we'll see. We'll find out soon. And of course, these are top personalities from 3 different international schools. And if I am to introduce you to them, first of all, I have with me Dr. Harsha Alas, who is the chairman of the International Schools of Sri Lanka and also the deputy chairman of Gateway. Good morning, doctor.
Morning, Mr.
And of course, I have Dr. John Scarth, who is the treasurer of the International Schools of Sri Lanka and also the principal of the British School in Colombo. And at last I have Miss Kumari Hapugala, who is the secretary of the same association and of course the managing director of the Alethea International School. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
How are you all feeling this Thursday morning?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Now of course you were hanging around the studio and you did see me talking about the Oscars. Are you guys fans of modern movies?
Kind of, with the kids.
You are. I'm sure a lot of your students must be checking the Oscars out.
I think the technology nowadays is just fantastic in the films, and the things you mentioned earlier were just brilliant. So the movies are fantastic for young people, aren't they?
I see. Of course, as I did introduce you to them, I did say they were from TISL, as they call it, the International Schools of Sri Lanka. Dr. Harsha, would you just mention to our viewers what TISL is all about?
Yes, TISL was launched only last week, but heads of 23 international schools for a long time, in fact from 1987, have been working together in an informal arrangement as an association. But we thought the time has come for us to formalize things, form an association, have a constitution, have a proper logo. So we've done all that, and TISL was launched this last week, and in that we have 23, I would say, leading international schools working together.
I see. So how did you all get involved in it? Like all the schools, as in, I believe you are the chairman and Dr. John is the treasurer, and of course Miss Kumari is the secretary. How has it been working on it? Is this a post that you all continue to hold on, or is it something that keeps changing year by year?
We'll be changing once in 2 years. We had wonderful teamwork. We came up from this 16th of January. We decided to do the formal part of it, to launch it before the ISAC, because we've been in existence for more than 23 years. So
it's a good thing that you mentioned ISAC, because I think this is one of the main reasons that we are here, not to mention we at MTV Sports, we are one of the electronic media partners for ISAC, and ISAC, I believe, is, I'm sure Dr. John Scarth will tell us what ISAC is about.
ISAC is the International Schools Athletics Championship. It's held annually. This year, Gateway College are the organisers, and all 23 schools send athletes along for 3 days of competition, which will be a wonderful event. It starts tomorrow on Friday and continues through to Sunday afternoon, when it will conclude in a grand closing ceremony.
I see. So the event is from 1st to the 3rd of March, and it is at the Sugatadasa Stadium. Of course, Dr. Alas, you are from Gateway. There is certain thing, as in, now Gateway being one of the main organizers of the event, I'm sure you are. It's a huge scale grand event, right? And how many athletes are we talking about in terms of participation?
Well, ISAC would attract almost 3,000 athletes. It's quite a mega event because we'll have about 300 officials, and we expect an audience of about 15,000. I would say this is the kind of flagship event in our sporting calendar in the association. So there's a lot of enthusiasm, but I think it's also a means of, all of us getting together, competing, but at the same time having good fun.
I see. And of course, as I was talking to you earlier, when it comes to sports, of course, Sri Lankan schools, all of us in different schools, highly into it, and they consider it one of the main extracurricular activities. And sometimes, of course, when it comes to traditional parents, they sometimes look at sending their kids to doing sports rather than more artistic activities such as theatre clubs and interact clubs, something more beneficial. And even, of course, a lot of organizations they look for this. But in compared to the local schools context and international schools, you will find a lot of local schools highly active with some of the most famous sports in the country, which is, if I'm to name them, cricket and rugby. But correct me if I'm wrong, but something I've seen is you don't see many kids in international schools really coming out there and taking on such sports like this. Is there any particular reason why?
Well, you chose two sports where we are not that good. It's partly because in cricket, it's confined to our own tournaments only between international schools. We have so far not been allowed to compete at national level. Rugby we never got started, but I would say almost all other sports, the government of Sri Lanka has been quite magnanimous and they have allowed us to take part, and we've done very well, especially in basketball, swimming, netball and many other sports. And I would say, very recently there were two national tournaments in basketball, the boys and girls, under 19. Within the first four, there were two international schools in the boys category, and in the girls category there were three. So quite an achievement.
All right. Now ISAC, which is the International Schools Athletic Championships. Now, can we consider this as the biggest sporting event in the international schools calendar?
Yes, it is. It is.
And if I'm not mistaken, you did mention that it has been running for quite a number of years.
This is the 13th year we'll be running this tournament, championship, and it is done mostly by Gateway, has done it for 6 years, and Lyceum has done it for 6 years, and we hope to continue it because that's the time all the students from all international schools get a chance to interact, fellowship and have a lot of fun. And we are very proud of the sportsmanship that is there amongst the school, because as heads we see that they maintain discipline and they also have the correct value of sportsmanship.
Okay, so in terms of sports, what are we going to look forward to during the event?
Well, ISAC has set very high standards. In fact, we have had a number of athletes who've gone on to represent Sri Lanka. A good example is probably the fastest man in Sri Lanka is Shehan Ambepitiya, who was a product of Gateway and who took part and who made the grade at ISAC. Even last year we had about 6-7 athletes who eventually represented Sri Lanka, so we have quite high standards. And the meet itself, I think Kumari just mentioned that there is good sportsmanship, and what is unique is there are 23 schools, all right, but tomorrow at least at the opening ceremony you will see all of them would be wearing one common t-shirt. Okay, and all of them would be carrying one identity card issued by the association. Okay.
I'm going to stop you there for a bit, Dr. Harsha. Now, when you did say one t-shirt, now we're talking about 23 different schools, and you did mention discipline. And of course, in terms of monitoring discipline, you have to identify your kids. So if all of them are going to be wearing the same kind of t-shirt, how are you going to identify them?
Well, we all share and believe in common values, and discipline is very important. And I must say, sometimes people talk about discipline in international schools, and at times we have been at the receiving end, and it's been a little unfair as well. Because why I say about discipline is we all share same values, and if there is a problem with one school, we consider that it's a problem of all schools, and I'm sure none of us should feel bad to correct another child from another school. That's the spirit we work in.
Definitely, I completely agree with that sentiment. So, talking a little bit more about, I think we were getting on to the question of what kind of sports will be happening at the event, but we really couldn't kind of tackle what kind of sporting activities will be there.
Well, the event will be based on AAA rules. So there will be age categories from under 7 going up to under 20, both boys and girls, and almost all events that would be there in a track and field event will be there, both field and track. Well, we have electronic timing. In fact, the entire meet is computerized, from the entries to the lane selections to the final selection of positions, and of course the issue of certificates. So it's fully computerized.
It's fully computerized, of course. It's like I said earlier when I heard about this, it is not something that you will see in sporting activities, mainly here in Sri Lanka. And just tossing a question to you all, is this the first time you're having all this computerized for this event?
We had it, we've not had it as professional as it's going to be this time, but we've been having computerized electronic time for the last 3-4 years.
3-4 years, yeah.
3-4 years we've been having it.
I see. And of course also, I mean, for an event like this, there's a lot of participation from the kids. Now, in international schools, in terms of kids taking part in sports, especially for events like this, how would you say the enthusiasm is like?
It's huge. Sport is very, very popular, and it's not
very
just
competitive.
not just the senior students, junior students too. And any of your viewers who want to come along to the stadium over the weekend will see youngsters from all the schools taking part. And we would reach out to anybody who's watching your program to come along, and they'll see children of all ages really enjoying themselves, and it's just a fantastic spectacle.
I see. And of course, like we did mention, it is a huge event, and we would consider it one of the main sporting events which is taken place annually.
Actually, it could be considered like a big match event for us.
This is exactly what I was going to come to. I think you can read my mind, Ms. Kumari. Of course, the big match season is also coming up, and one of the trends we see in local schools, so for example, I'm from St. Peter's and I go to the Joe Pete. We get the Anand Nalandas, the Royal Thors, a lot of big matches going out there, and one of the trends that we notice yearly is that these sporting events are not just for the kids, it's for the past pupils as well. Where does schools like the international schools stand when it comes to sporting events? Do you get a lot of participation from past pupils? Do you get a lot of sponsorships, support? How does it work?
It's beginning to happen. I mean, international schools, many of them are fairly new, so not many schools will have that many past pupils. But now, in fact, we have a few past pupils coming, and in fact, ISAC has also become a meeting place for them.
Is it?
So it is getting popular.
Okay, so of course it's open to the public and you are selling tickets. What would the ticket prices be for the event?
For outsiders it is 200 rupees
Okay.
at the entrance ticket, but of course there won't be any charge for athletes and the officials.
Of course 200 rupees is a very reasonable ticket price, I would say, for an event of this scale. Also, in terms of support from parents, how is it like with this event?
Well, I think for parents of international schools, this was the biggest concern they had, whether the international schools would be able to offer them enough opportunities in sports. They probably knew that, academically we'll be all right, but this was the suspicion they had, if at all. Okay. But I think they must be quite happy now, because by now they would have seen the progress that the international schools have made in many areas, and sports has become an important component.